My next guest, delighted to have him on as well. The polling expert, the guru, the professor of politics at the University of Strathclyde, Sir John Curtice. Good afternoon. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning to you, Jeremy. Fine, thanks very much.
God, I bet you lot in the polling world had an absolute joyous day yesterday, didn't you? I've got so much I want to ask you. A YouGov poll out, this is brilliant, say that only 22% of Brits believe it's likely that Starmer will be Prime Minister by the end of this year. I don't know who that 22% is, because most people that listen or watch this say he's a dead man walking. What do you say, John Curtice?
Well, I mean, I think certainly while Keir Starmer managed to weather yesterday's storm, essentially instigated by the call by Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader, for him to resign, the underlying problem, which is that Keir Starmer himself is not very popular, that the Labour Party itself is not very popular. It's running at just 20% in the opinion polls. And the concerns as a result Labour MPs have about the Prime Minister's ability to turn things around between now and the 2029 election, those doubts will still be there. It does mean that Keir Starmer is going to continue to be under pressure. Now, in a sense, he's got an opportunity. He's got an opportunity because of what happened yesterday, that he's certainly acquired some time. I think it's also clear he's always, one big advantage he's got is that there isn't an obvious successor, somebody who is popular, who can unite the party. Rather, the party will be heading for a pretty fractious leadership contest if he were to go down now. So that helps him out. But the crucial thing now is whether or not he can finally in this reset address what people have regarded as the fundamental problems of his leadership, and that is a lack of leadership. That is, he isn't somebody who's been able to convey to the public a sense of what he believes in, what his government is trying to achieve, what kind of country it wants to create. All we've ever got from Keir Starmer is we're here, we want to reverse and repair the damage that we believe the Tories inflicted on the country between 2010 and 2024, but it's never gone further than that. It's been a constant complaint about his premiership. We have seen in the the publication by West Streeting of his interactions with Lord Mandelson while he was ambassador. West Streeting clearly trying to get the dirty out early. That might affect his leadership chances. Them sharing the observation that there is no economic philosophy for this government. The question is whether or not Keir Starmer can finally do something about that, and therefore perhaps begin to instill a degree of confidence in the public about the way in which he's running the country. That his thin chances of being able to remain Prime Minister in the long run, frankly, rest now on that project.
Many think he'll be gone sooner rather than later, and most people that we've spoken to today and yesterday say when, not if. Let's ask you from a polling point of view. One of the things that you talked about, which I just put to the
Sure.
chairman of Reform, was that you believe that Reform's popularity has levelled out. You talked when you were last on with me about the impact that Zach Polanski's leadership and the Greens has had. What are we looking at nationally? There actually, interestingly, hasn't been a poll, has there, since yesterday with the shenanigans, as you put it, that's gone on. How do you see that impacting? How do you see that impacting?
Well, there hasn't been one since yesterday, inevitably. There have now been three since the Mandelson story became headline news, which I really date from about the Monday of last week. One of them has Labour down one of them has Labour up one, and the most recent from YouGov today has no change. I don't think we should be surprised. The point is not that this is some sudden storm whereby people's views about Keir Starmer are suddenly being changed by the Mandelson revelations. He is already so unpopular. The Labour Party is already so unpopular that therefore I don't think we necessarily anticipated that this would make things worse for Labour, and I'm not sure even yesterday is going to make things much worse. They are already in such a poor state. Now, turning to Reform, they're running at the moment on average in the opinion polls in January at 29%. And the truth is that they have been running at or close to 30% on average in the opinion polls on a continuous basis ever since May of last year. Now, if that isn't a plateau, I don't know what isn't. It's a plateau whereby they're ahead of everybody else, at least a 9-10 point lead. And I would perfectly agree with David Bull, who had on earlier, that at the moment, if there were a general election, Reform would probably win an overall majority. That, I suspect, explains why he wants there to be a general election soon. But if you look at the character of support for Reform, support for Reform is running at around 50% amongst those people who voted for Brexit. It's running at around 10% or less amongst those people who voted to remain inside the European Union. This is very much a party that has successfully appealed to a niche market in our society. And the truth is, all our parties now are minority parties. They're all appealing to niche markets. Now, if you bear in mind that basically only around 40% of people these days will tell pollsters that they would vote to stay out of the European Union, and if you reckon that it's pretty much difficult for a party to get absolutely all of them on board, 30% seems to be, and the evidence so far is that, likely to be the peak, unless Reform can widen their appeal. And I think that means the party coming up with much more to say about the economy. At the moment, what do they talk about? They talk about, yes, Brexit. They talk about immigration. They talk about their scepticism about equalities policies. They say we should be proud of Britain. These are all tunes that appeal to the niche market that they've already got. If they're going to go beyond that market, they have to be able to tell us, how are you going to actually make Britain's economy grow? How are you going to make people feel better off? Because that, which is also an important part of the current public mood, is something where Reform so far has seemed to have much less to say.
Just very quickly before we finish, Sir John, the Green Party under Zach Balansky showed great growth. What's happened to them?
Well, the polls, frankly, are not entirely in agreement. I can find you a poll that puts them at 10, and I can find you another one that puts them at 16. But on average, it's running at about 13%. The rise seems to have stopped. But, so certainly so far as Labour Party is concerned, it's one of the reasons for their woes. So, yes, around 1 in 8 of the people who voted Labour in 2024 have now switched to Reform. But equally, 1 in 8 of them have switched to the Greens. And Labour's problem is that they're being squeezed by both directions. But in effect, Nigel Farage and Zach Balansky between them are one of the reasons why Labour's position in the opinion polls is so dire, and why Keir Starmer's hold on the leadership of his party still looks relatively tenuous.
It's great to have you on, my friend. I'll finish with one very quick question. It's a very short answer. When do you think Starmer will go, Sir John Curtice?
He's clearly, unless the results in the May the 7th elections are an awful lot better than we're anticipating, there is likely to come a crunch moment in the summer of this year. And unless those results are markedly better, that's the point at which perhaps Labour MPs will decide it's time to turn things around. Without the immediate prospect of elections, perhaps contemplate the prospect of a leadership contest in a way that they clearly weren't willing to do so yesterday.
Great to have you on, my friend. Thank you so much indeed. Polling expert Sir John Curtice there.